James Mulley Jr. on Penfield Town Court. What's my name? Do you know my name? It's a simple question. You should. There is a name you definitely know. Jermaine C. Benman. Why do you definitely know the name? Jermaine C. Benman. My name is Christopher Chance. Yes, I've never committed a crime. That fact is completely irrelevant to you, James Mulley Jr., because you're in Penfield Town Court destroying lives, along with your fellow fanatic, degenerate, sociopath, Paul C. Metzler, and fanatic, degenerate, sociopath, John P. Lomenzo Jr., who doesn't even know what century he lives in. So, James P. Mulley Jr., I'm going to tell you about your nauseating, sickening, disgusting existence inside a library. Do you know you're inside a library? Do you know that Penfield Town Court is inside a library? I'm going to tell you about harassment second and Jermaine C. Benman. Because I got a subpoena to appear in Penfield Town Court with James P. Mulley Jr. was inside his library courtroom. I go to this gym called PW Fitness. I'm at the back one day. I'm on the bench press. Up walks to me Jermaine C. Benman. He stands over me. He goes like that. I say, I'll be 30 seconds. He punches down. My head snaps back violently, James P. Mulley Jr. Benman begins to walk away. A witness calls the Monroe County Sheriff's Office and Andrew Reale arrives, tied back to $79,000 disgusting hack. Andrew Reale tells me to wait in the back seat of his Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle. He's in front of the vehicle talking to Jermaine C. Benman. Are you following me so far, given your age, James P. Mulley Jr.? Andrew Reale walks Jermaine C. Benman around to the side of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle. I look to my left, and then Jermaine Benman says to me, I want to press charges against you. That, James P. Mulley Jr., is how it's started harassment second. Junior, from the time I was on the bench press until I was in the back seat of Andrew Reale's Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle, what's the name of the human being I'm harassing? I'm not harassing anyone. Does that matter to you? Does it matter to you in the United States of America that I'm not harassing anyone? And I'm charged with harassment second, sitting in the backseat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle? The answer is no, it doesn't matter to you. It's the parking lot next to my residence in Penfield. Here comes a guy in his tractor from Brock Collar Tree and Lawn Care because Todd Baxter's fanatic, degenerate, sociopath Shannon Meyer told him to ride a tractor by my house. I've said this to her. That concocted this for me, using his civilian named Steve Desmond, who cuts the grass for Brock Collar Tree and Lawn Care. Here's the guy in his tractor. He's got a long gray beard. Here's Steve Desmond walking the parking lot. They want me to come outside. They haven't been here for 7 years, and suddenly they're here. What do you think I'm going to think? That no one owns this land? You can look at it and see no one owns this land because these parasites, and you should know their names, Layla Kumar and Naraj Shah, that live at 2041 Penfield, don't have documentation. So tell me how this is correct. Here comes the guy in his tractor from Brock Collar Tree and Lawn Care. Here comes Brock Collar Tree and Lawn Care employee Steve Desmond. He's got his phone in his hand. I come outside. I stand right here. I tell the guy in his tractor no one owns that land. I walk back in my residence. How's that a crime, Junior Mulley? Steve Desmond calls the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Shannon Meyer gets here. She falls down in my backyard dirt. There is $67,000 Shannon Meyer laying in my backyard dirt. I hear this pounding on my door, and as I now know, these psychopaths at the sheriff's office just don't knock. I answer the door, and then I hear the lie. We just want to talk to you outside. I walk outside. They surround me, and the handcuffs go on. How is that a crime, James P. Mulley Jr.? James P. Mulley Jr., who am I harassing? How's that a crime just to be outside for 30 seconds to tell a guy in his tractor no one owns that land? Because when I appeared in Penfield Town Court for 70-year-old John P. Lomenzo Jr., there's no interest whatsoever from him as to the facts that I just briefly described. There are more facts, too. But these are the brief ones, as I'm now 4 minutes on his YouTube. I was in jail for this. Without a jury. How do you exist there in Penfield Town Court just declaring every single person guilty? And that's what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice. Everybody's guilty. Isn't that right, James P. Mulley Jr.? Every single person that appears in Penfield Town Court is adjudicated guilty by you, Paul C. Metzler, and John P. Lomenzo Jr. Everybody's guilty. How is that possibly explained? and you're refusing to comply. The name, charge, and sentence of every defendant in Penfield Town Court for John P. Lomenzo Jr., James P. Mulley Jr., and Paul Lomenzo. Guilty, 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 and my name is going to be on this list. I seek to obtain the documentation. I want to see John P. Lomenzo Jr.'s signature on my documentation. I want to see Paul Lomenzo's signature on my documentation. That's why I'm demanding this. And I want to see the name of the citizen in Penfield, New York, the charge and the ruling. That's what I'm demanding. I want to see the seriousness of the charge, if it's even a felony. How many felony cases do you have in Penfield Town Court? Is that in another jurisdiction? I don't know. Is everything a misdemeanor? I don't know. I believe it is because they concocted a felony on my back porch, so it must be felonies and misdemeanors. I'm asking questions you should provide the answer to. And in your arrogance and criminality, you will refuse. Name, charge, and sentence every defendant in Penfield Town Court. How do you explain to the United States Department of Justice, the Office of Governor Andrew Cuomo, the majority of them speaking that everybody's guilty? And that's why you exist in a star chamber. And in your star chamber, I was demanding the salary for you, Junior Mulley, and John P. Lomenzo Jr. He was refusing. And he even wrote me, I don't have it in the documentation I have in front of me, a letter where he refuses to disclose his salary. And guess who sent me the salary? And it was on the budget for the town of Penfield. Guess who sent me the salary, Paul C. Metzler? That's how I know the salary is $28,000 and $34,000. So I got a $28,000 nauseating, sickening criminal on Penfield, New York, abridging my civil and constitutional rights. And I got a $34,000 nauseating, sickening criminal on Penfield Town Court, abridging my civil and constitutional rights. So I get the subpoena and I have to go into Penfield Town Court. And I sit down and I'm told to leave by one of your female employees. I'm ordered out of the courtroom despite the fact I got a subpoena to be there in your courtroom, Junior Mulley. That's because Jessica Wagner at the district attorney's office negotiated a deal, a plea bargain, if that's what it's called, with Jermaine Bettman and you to let him walk right out the door. This is a violent criminal. This is a thug. James P. Mulley Jr., you let this violent criminal and this thug walk right out the door. Jessica Wagner, this is the payroll for the district attorney's office, A to Z. So I'm going to go to W, Junior. And on W here, there are three names. There are three names on the third page. Suzanne Wicker, Mary Wilmot, Ian Winter. There's no Jessica Wagner. I'd like to know if Jessica Wagner was fired because she's the protection racket for Jermaine C. Bennett. Jessica Wagner at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office is the de facto defense attorney for Jermaine Bennett because she negotiated that deal with you, James P. Mulley Jr. What do you think about everything I'm saying here and accusing you of? Because I'm accusing you of corruption, James P. Mulley Jr. I'm accusing you of having a bankrupt set of ethics. That's what I'm accusing you of, James P. Mulley Jr. Do you know judges throughout the United States of America are bound by a code of ethics? And I'm in the process of seeing what that code of ethics is in the state of New York because I'm confident that you, bald-headed wig-wearing Paul C. Metzler, and John P. Lomenzo Jr. are in violation of numerous provisions of a code of ethics for judges in New York. You negotiated a deal to let this violent dog walk right at the door. What happens if somebody in your family or a friend had a head snapped back at the gym violently and walked into court, and then the criminal that committed that crime walked out the door, and the victim that had his head snapped back went to jail? I hate calling myself a victim, and you know what? It's going to be totally irrelevant to you. But I have to replay in my mind that violent attack upon me, and every single time I think, why don't you just bring him to the ground and respond, because then it's just another fight at the gym. I've been going to the gym for 20 years, not one problem. If I would have responded and attacked Jermaine Bettman, and it's just a fight at the gym or kicked out of the gym, that's all there is to it. And I can't be, and perhaps I would have been charged with a crime, because you can, if there's a fight and it's a vicious fight, you never know what the outcome's going to be. There could be criminal charges, but I'm not charged with harassment second sitting in the backseat of the vehicle. So, Junior, if I initiated a fight with this violent thug, Jermaine Bettman, then it's just a fight. And then if there were criminal charges, then it's a fight from criminal charges where I can't explain I was attacked first. And then I'm not in the backseat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle, James Mulley Jr. I'm not in the backseat of Andrew Reale's police vehicle being charged with harassment second, where I'm compelled to go to Penfield Town Court and sit in your library as you negotiate a deal with Jessica Wagner, District Attorney's Office, to let this violent thug and criminal walk right out the door. Now, this is the thing I'm also concerned about, and I'm demanding. Does Jermaine C. Bettman have a prior criminal record? He acts like an animal at the gym, and you're an animal too, James P. Mulley Jr. Did you let this person who has a previous criminal record walk out the door? A guy that behaves like this, I'm guessing in all likelihood has a prior criminal record. I had no criminal record to that day. I'm 55 years old. In the 30 years since I was honorably discharged as a 22-year-old Sergeant E5 from 2nd Squadron, 17 Cavalry, 101st Airborne Engineer Assault, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, I got one speeding ticket, Junior. And prior to this disgusting descent of my life, by these parasites, Nairaj and Label Kumar Shah, one speeding ticket. I have always known the difference between right and wrong. Always. So, you negotiated that deal with Jessica Wagner. Why? For what reason? Why did you allow Jermaine C. Bettman to walk right out the door? Does Jermaine C. Bettman have a prior criminal record? James C. Mulley Jr., did you look into the database at the Division of Criminal Justice Services in Albany to obtain information about a prior criminal record for Jermaine C. Bettman? Is he a violent thug, a violent criminal, a sociopath? Sociopath can't wait 30 seconds to use a bench press at the gym and commits a violent act. That's definitely a sociopath. Does Jermaine Bettman have a prior record? That's difficult information to obtain, which I've been seeking to obtain now for 12 plus months, 18 plus months. It can't be done using Google or Yahoo or Bing, which I've used all those search engines, using different combinations to find out if Jermaine C. Bettman has a prior criminal record. But Junior, you know the answer to the question, does Jermaine C. Bettman have a prior criminal record? So, how do you exhibit yourself with morality, decency, and ethics, Junior? When you were sitting there signing the paperwork for him to go free, did it even occur to you what he did to me? Did it even matter? And the answer is no. Both times that it doesn't matter. Because you're there with Paul C. Mitchell on a search warrant that's not a search warrant. Isn't that right, Paul? I've said this to you repeatedly now. So, James P. Mulley Jr., reason for this YouTube. I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice, the employees at the United States Department of Justice, the employees that work for Governor Andrew Cuomo, the employees that work for the Speaker Majority Leader in Albany, that you negotiated a deal to allow this violent criminal, this thug, Jermaine Bettman, to have his freedom because of a plea bargain, a deal you negotiated with Jessica Wagner, who's no longer employed at the Monroe County District Attorney's Office. You are a criminal protection racket for this violent thug, Jermaine C. Bettman. Resign, James P. Mulley Jr. from Penfield Town Court.